March meeting tonight is going to be preserving the night skies, and I'd like to introduce Patsy Inglet, who will then introduce our speaker. Here's,
Thank you.
here's the little magic.
The little magic microphone here. This is for all the people who are joining us on Zoom. Welcome. I want to give a very, very special thanks to Dr. Stephen Grainger, who stepped in. As some of you know, we had another program planned tonight, and the young woman who was going to do it informed me that she was now 7 months pregnant and was having issues, and she was not going to be able to come here and do this, but she would be happy to bring the baby next year and and give us her talk about art and nature. So the Comal County Friends of the Night Sky had contacted us and wanted to give us this program, and we said, well, we're all booked up. And then we had this opening, and they graciously came in at the last minute. And can I call you Steve?
Stephen.
Stephen is what you prefer.
Right.
Stephen drove from Comal County in the driving rain today to present this, and you can see he's got all kinds of demonstrations and so forth. So we're very grateful. Thank you so much. He is a wonderful person. You can see that he smiles a lot, and he has a wonderful voice. He is an engineer by training, and I kind of like those guys because since I'm married to one. And he was an adjunct professor at the University of Texas. He's been a vice president of Lone Star Technologies. He's been a professional engineer for 30 years. He's done all kinds of things. He's worked on the space shuttle program. This guy has done a lot of wonderful things, but he shared something else that I thought was interesting. He was a principal clarinetist for an orchestra until his hearing took that away. But he still sings with the Wimberley Chorus, is that correct? And other organizations.
I just recently retired from that too.
Well, he has a beautiful voice, as you can hear when he speaks. But he has served on the boards of the Comal Master Gardener since. How long have you been in Comal County now?
We moved here in late 2010.
2010. And in that time, he's been the president of Comal Master Gardeners. He's been Comal Conservation Alliance, Wimberley, as I said, community course. He has degrees in math and engineering, all from Texas A&M. Dig him. And he found life in agriculture and kind of in Comal County very pleasant, I think. Yes. And we're very glad that he's going to bring his expertise. But I want to give you a foreshadowing. He's going to come back. We've already asked him because he's also very involved with rain harvesting, catchment, and so forth. And he's got a website called therainbees.com. And we're going to have him come back next year, I think. And you can learn all about that because, you know, here in the Hill Country, that's an abiding situation. This stuff we're seeing today is the exception rather than the rule otherwise. So I'm very, very glad to have him come and tell us how to preserve the night sky and reduce light pollution. Thank you, Stephen.
Thank you, Patsy. And thank you, Britt. Well, I'm glad to see you brave the weather to come out. Thank you for doing that. And we're delighted to be here to represent Comal Night Skies. And I've been with the organization now for 3 years. And the organization was founded in 2020 and then kind of got derailed with COVID, as many things did. But our organization has continued to promote taking the light out of the sky and putting where you really need it, which is not up there, it's down here. And so we'll start by saying, are you one of the lucky ones? Can you see the Milky Way from your house? The last time I could see the Milky Way from my house was in the 50s. And I've lived in urban areas since then, and it's just not there. I mentioned to someone that I was on a cruise with my father in Alaska, and they turned out all the lights. I think it was Tom I was talking to. And I was stunned to get to see all the stars again. It was great. So they're really, the light pollution that we're facing comes at us in 5 different ways. It affects our wildlife, and actually our plant life too. It affects trees, it affects plants growing in around your house because it throws off their rhythms. They're used to synchronizing with sunrise, sunset. And, you know, a tree has no concept of what daylight savings time is. And we hardly do either. But the first item up there is that light pollution affects everything around us, the fauna and the flora. So that's one biggie. And then it looks at the next level, light pollution is really unsafe for you in that it throws your body out of synchronization with your environment. It causes your brain to start to behave differently. And it's subliminal. We really don't notice it, but it catches up to you. You know, if you stay up real late and don't get much sleep for a few days, you know how you feel. You just start to crash. Well, that's part of that comes from being exposed to what we call blue light. And I'll get on the concept of the frequencies a little bit later. Light pollution can also affect our pocketbook because half of the money we spend on lighting is lighting the sky. Half of it. So think about how much we're spending on our electric bill, and you know that that's a significant portion. And then this other portion down here, let's see, I pointed the wrong one. It makes us less safe. We think of lighting being a security bonanza. You know, if we put up a lot of bright lights, we're going to be safe. We're really not, and I'll show you why in just a little bit. Can everybody hear me okay? Okay. And the last point was it affects our heritage because it takes away from the beauty of the environment that we enjoy. I remember going camping as a kid in Boy Scouts, and it was dark. It was really dark when the sun went down. Light pollution comes in three forms, and we've seen all three. Everyone in this room can identify with it. The first one is sky glow. I can see the lights of San Antonio and the lights of Austin from my house. I live on the Devil's Backbone, north of Canyon Lake, and I can see both clearly. I can see the lights of Interstate 35. The next thing is glare, and it's like looking at headlights coming at you. But it's the worst thing in the world is have a neighbor that's got a spotlight pointed right at your house. I unfortunately have one of those. It's not a spotlight. He's got a street light right in front of his house. But I can do finger symbols on the wall, you know, make bunny rabbits and all that, even when I have no lights on in the house from his light. And he's 700 feet away. And the last one is this light trespass, where you've got a big bright light. That's like my neighbor's. His bright light shines all over my land. And I really don't want it there. Now I'll tell you a story on me. This is a true story, and it happened about 1.5 years ago. My wife and I were traveling in France. We were on a river cruise with Viking on the Lyon River. And I got a phone call in the afternoon. We were out at a vineyard, and it was my neighbor from a few blocks away. And she said, "What is going on at your house?" And I said, "I don't know what you mean." And before I could tell her where I was, she said, "Every light in your house is on. Every porch light is on. And I thought you were a night sky guy." And I said, "Call Brenda Kozer, because it's her son that's watching our dog. It's something must have spooked him." And it turns out he did get nervous and turned on all the lights because he was afraid. That really happened. I've kind of just gotten myself off track, so let me get back on my business here. When we talk about it being critical for wildlife control, I have a lot of wildlife that comes up to my house. And I'm sorry, I'm out of sequence. On the trees, if you'll notice, this is green right here, and there's a street light right there. And then all of the canopy is gone right here, and it's because of that light right there, hitting it at the wrong time of the year. It affects birds, and that's what your primary interest is in. It affects birds not only for their migration, but also their hunting. Predatory birds that are nocturnal really are thrown off by the bright lights because They're blinded by the light, plus their timing of their feeding periods gets out of whack too, because their prey is out of whack as well. I have pretty much all of these coming around my house, plus a few others. And they're there because it's really funny. They don't come up to the house until we go to bed. We turn out the lights, and 10 minutes later, our dog starts barking because they're up on the veranda. As a master gardener, I can't emphasize enough how important even moths are to our pollination processes on our plants, because at night they just buzz around, and during the day it's another shift. It's the bees' job and the birds' job, but at night it's the moth's job. And for folks that have seen a street light on and you've got a cloud of moths flying around it at night, they can't navigate. They're blinded by that. And because of that, they can't go do their job. And in fact, they fall victim to prey, as prey to mostly frogs. Frogs will gather down on the ground below them and pick them off when they come down to the ground. But you've also seen them resting on the side of your house. If you've got a porch light on, they will rest on the side of the house because they've just given up. They've gotten so tired of trying to navigate away from the light, and they get tired physically and they just rest. And that's why they're on your house. There's some buzzing around the light right there. Then migrating birds use two things. Some use magnetic north to navigate, others use the sun. And I laugh about my wife. When we lived in Utah for 3 years, she navigated by which side of the road the mountains were on. So we all have our tricks of the trade. Now, when we talk about wasting energy, and I mentioned earlier that 50% of all of our energy is wasted. And think of all of the other effects that causes. It's water and heat. We're warming the country, we're warming the world to produce that electricity needlessly if we're just throwing the light away. And we're also using a lot of water to produce that electricity. I know I'm sounding like I'm talking like an engineer. I can't help it. Now, when I talk about being more secure at night, I'm going to show you an example of what we mean by why bright lights are not necessarily good lights for security. When you look at this, the purpose of security lights are to let you know that someone's there, an intruder may be there. And some people think that by having bright lights, you keep people away because you're going to be seen so easily. The fact is if you have a lot of lights on, they go, oh, there's a house over there. Let's go check it out. So you're actually attracting folks. If you look at this bright light here, that's glare. Now, he's covered it up in this bottom part of the slide with his hand. Can you see anything in the picture? Down there, there's actually a person standing in the gate. You cannot see him at all right there, but you can make him out a little bit right there. So more light is not safer. Bright light is the safest choice. And especially if you put the light to where when they cross in front of it, you see them pass in front. May I get a sip of water really quick? Really promote water. It's the best thing. I had an uncle out in Odessa that said God knew what he was doing when he made water. When I mentioned human health, how many of you have gotten up in the middle of the night because something woke you up and you think, well, I'll just check my phone and see if I've had any calls that I may have missed. And so you get on your phone and that light from your phone is in your face. Pretty soon you can't get back to sleep. The same is true with computers. It's because the light intensity and the spectrum, the wavelength of the lights affect your brain at that point, and it starts shutting down your melatonin production. And there's a whole list of things that it can affect. Bright lights at night can affect you, and it make you more depressed. It can actually cause some cancers. They believe there's a linkage on 2 different types of cancer. And eventually it will set you into a pattern where you can't sleep. When I was writing my dissertation, I was at home in Longview at the time. And so I would go to work at 3 in the morning, and then I would come in home about 8 o'clock at night, and then I would visit with the family, have dinner, and read case law until midnight, and then I slept from midnight to 3. Well, I was working at a computer, both at home and at work, and when I finished my dissertation, I could not sleep more than 3 hours. For 2 years, I only got 3 hours of sleep a night. Well, think of how that is also affecting wildlife. It's affecting the birds. We don't really have a measure on how much it's affecting them, but it will throw you out of kilter. And I got over it. Man, can I sleep good now? But not then. And I've made it a point that if I wake up in the middle of the night, I do not check my phone and I do not get on the computer because it will wake you right up. Now let's look at Camp Bullis and talk a little bit about what's being done out that way. They do training for medical personnel at night, and they simulate combat conditions. And this is the most stressful situation you can put a medical person under. And if you have bright lights, it's not really simulating what you're going to find in a battlefield situation. So we have light restrictions around the camp, and it goes out in certain distance. They want it 2,700 Kelvin, and I'll talk a little bit about what that means in a minute. A little farther out, you can get to 3,000 Kelvin, and then most of the communities that surround the base or the camp have saluted that. We'll do that, but not everyone, and so there's still some tension going on. Okay. The Bat Cave at Bracken, that's another area where the light is negatively affecting them. And bats are great pollinators too. Excuse me. I'm going to show you this slide, which was from 1992. And you can see a little bit of Interstate 35 right there. You can see a little bit of New Braunfels and San Marcos. But watch the difference what 18 years made. And that was 15 years ago. So you can imagine what the next slide would look like. You can spot intersections. In the bright here, I can see where 306 comes into 281 because they've added gas stations and a Whataburger and all of those things there. And similarly down at Rebecca Creek, you can see that intersection. Cities that are trying to hold the line on that are Dripping Springs and Wimberley, Spring Branch, and Bulverde are all trying very hard to slow the light. We've got several irons in the fire on that. For one thing, we're trying to hold back the rate of development because of water, but also the light. You get more and more people moving in, and you just get more and more light pollution. But that's a startling difference between those two cities. And like I said, I can see the sky glow from Austin and San Antonio from my house, and I'm right about there. How can we as individuals do something about light pollution at the spot where we are, where we live, the community we live in? So we've got some tips on what you can do. There are 5 principles, and we're going to go over those one at a time. First one is use the light with a good purpose. I've got some handouts too if you want some of those that match this. Here you've got a porch that you're wanting to illuminate, so when you come home you don't trip over the steps getting in. But there's no point in lighting up the rest of the house unless you're just trying to show off your house just to the neighbors and say, I really like my house. You know, people do that, and they think that it looks more impressive. The house looks more impressive, but it's not useful. This is not a good purpose. This is a good purpose. Then we get more focused about it. Do targeted lighting where you're shining the light right where you need the light. instead of having an uncontrolled light that goes up into the sky as well. That's a very simple thing to fix. You can get a little hood. Let me see if I can find it. I put it up here. Maybe I put it over here. Little bells like this. Something like this that kind of directs the light down. That's a helpful thing to do. And you get fixtures that do the same thing. The next thing is we want to have the right light level. Unless you're planning to do surgery on your front porch, you probably don't need really bright lights. Wait until you get in the house if you're going to read a book, okay? So the right intensity of the light is important too. And it's a good time for me to interject that light intensity is not the same as the color. Color of the light is frequency, and they refer to it most commonly in terms of temperature. The hotter something gets, the more frequent or intense, no, that's the wrong word, sorry. The higher the frequency will get with slower light, lower wavelengths. And I'll show you, I'm trying to stay away from being too much of an engineer. The next one, and I'll show you an example of that on those lights. Controlling the light means if I can set up an automatic motion activation and then have the light go off, then you're really helping a lot with something like that. You know, there's no point in leaving the light on if nobody's out there. And then now we get back to this idea of the color of the light. And the frequencies of the light are harder to talk about, so we talk about the color of the light. And everybody knows that it's more romantic to sit in front of a fireplace with nice yellow light coming off than to sit in a waiting room at an ER. I mean, I can't make it any more graphic than that. So now, let's look at this in reality. You can do shielding, and that's puts plenty of light down here, none up here. So you're reducing the sky effect. Did everybody see that? Okay. Now here's an example of shielding. This is pointing downward. You can have fixtures like this on your house at your front door and keep the light in the right color. Notice how nice and warm that light looks? That's because the frequency or the temperature of the light, as we call it, is about 2100. It's 2170, I believe. 2700, sorry. 2700. And that's what we recommend is that temperature. That's 2700 degrees Kelvin. Kelvin being 0 Kelvin is like absolute zero. Atoms stop moving at that temperature. Are you ready for the bright light? This is 5000 Kelvin. Stick around, your doctor will be with you in just a moment. And here's another low intensity, and it's also partly shielded even in the bulb. This is a nice little combination there. Excuse me. And I like this one. The glass shield helps soften it too. Now this shows more spread on the light than the first one I had down there. But these are the temperature ranges that you want to go with. 2700 is what we recommend, and in fact, Bulverde and Spring Branch have adopted that as city ordinances. If you have outdoor lights, 2700 is what we want you to use. Some people are still using the brighter lights. Have you gone into a gas station lately? Bright lights overhead. We're trying to make a movement on that. And this just goes back and shows you what I was just talking about. Preventing the glare is one of the biggies. If you look at the difference between these house lights and these house lights, same house, just different fixtures. We have talked to a lot of businesses, and we have a recognition program where we give them a decal to put on their front door, and they can put a sign up as well in the shop. And it's basically, we've certified them that they're doing the right thing with regard to light. Here's a shop that this was what they started with. And now they've gone to even double the number of lights, but it's less expansive in its spread of the light. So this is a winner right here. Again, the spread of the frequency of the light is expressed in temperature. The nice warm, think about sunrise and sunset, what the colors are. Well, that's because the sun is shining through many more layers of atmosphere coming to you at a slight angle than when it gets directly overhead. When it's directly overhead, you're getting a lot of blue light. You don't get much blue light at sunrise and sunset. How do you recognize a good bulb? And as a master gardener, I'm not talking about the ones you put around the trees out in your front yard. How do you spot a good light bulb? Is you look for this International Dark Skies Association logo. That is your key, that you're looking at a bulb that's been tested and approved for use in the environment. And you'll get statistics on the bulb with the packaging as well. And these are some of the packaging ideas that you'll see when you go looking for these bulbs. These are LED bulbs, and it shows generally the color of the bulb, but it also shows the lumen level. And lumen level has to do with intensity. If I shine a lot of light on a spot, it's going to have high lumens, but it doesn't have anything to do with the frequency of the light. So I can have an intense yellow light, and so you don't need as many lumens for your outdoor lighting. You back off on that, and you go with the color. Any questions? Yes.
Sodium vapor lights, outdoor lights, they're kind of yellowy. Are they bad, good, indifferent?
They are, it's a mixed bag. I'm sorry, I would repeat the question. Are sodium vapor lights bad for the environment? Typically, yes. Because of the intensity, the glare that comes from them, you can shield them and improve them. And like in our area, PEC changed out their bulbs. They got away from the sodium vapor and they put in something else, and they shielded the lights, which changed the environment around those poles quite a lot.
But they look yellow.
They look yellow. That's true. But they're not the best choice. Let's just say that.
Thank you.
Yes.
In blue lights now instead of white? Is there a reason that the blue would be?
The blue lights?
Yeah, I mean, it's like a blue Christmas light color.
Yes. Those are really bad in the sense that they're the wrong. I'm sorry, I forgot. She asked the question about blue lights, like really bright headlights on cars and the underpasses. Yep. Not our best choice. Right. And that comes to, you have to get standards changed. You have to get the state to change some of their standards. Municipal standards have to change, and you do that with city ordinances. Good question. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
So if I want to find these approved bulbs, where are the places that have them? Who carries them that we can buy them?
A lot of the big box, where do you find the light bulbs that we recommend? A lot of the big box stores are now carrying them. Not all of them, but you can go online and do a Google search for them, for instance, and find which stores are carrying them.
Thank you.
Now, as I said, Bulverde and Spring Branch are working on this now with city ordinances to lead the way. And we're getting a lot of volunteer activity from the community businesses. And the best thing is to recognize them. As soon as they recognize what you're trying to achieve, they usually want to help. This is the broader issue, that not just seeing the stars, but also you're promoting better health in the community. You're better health for the people, for the wildlife, for the plant life, and it's not as disruptive. If you want to enjoy it, take a ride out by Camp Willis some night. Just take a ride out. This is the area that I'm talking about. We're trying to hold the line. You'll notice there's a strong tendency to keep the light down along this line. Drippin is night sky, Wimberley is, we're working on it, and Blanco is also night sky city. Blanco has a really nice program. They raise money and they have you turn in your light bulbs, and they'll give you a good light bulb.
There you go.
We're hoping to do that someday ourselves. I live right there.
Okay, wait. I get my steps in this way.
Thank you. I do have a question. Are there any large cities around the country that are aiming to go into this type of program?
I'm not aware of any, but I'm not the best person to answer that question. There are people that are more knowledgeable about that in our organization. So you can also query that through the IDA. They'll have some lists of places that not only here, but overseas.
Right.
that
I
have
know
done
that there's neighborhoods in certain areas
Yeah.
that are targeting that, but yeah, I'll look that up. Thanks.
Yep, sorry. But here's our suggestions. Make your light useful. You don't want to trip on the steps going in your front door at night, but you don't have to light up your neighbor's house. And make sure it's targeted, and that you're using low light lenses that focus the light down, and that you're using the right colors. I think that's what it says. No, controlled lighting. When you can, put a motion detector on it, and then use the right color of light, the right temperature. The recommendation is to stay at 2700 as a max. Well, that's the story from Comal County on night skies. And we appreciate your interest, and thanks for inviting us to come speak tonight. And I'm speaking for our whole organization, that we're all very happy that you invited us.
Thank you. Do we have any questions from people on Zoom? Okay. You said you had some handouts.
Yes, I've got some handouts here, particularly the 5 things that you can do, some guidelines on how to get bulbs. And let's see, what was one other thing?
And for people who are online, I went on your website.
Yes.
The website is comaldarksky.org,
Right
and
there.
it has some wonderful resources that you can download and read about. And so you don't have to have the handouts that we have. They have them on their website. And it's a very nice website, by the
Thank
way.
you.
Thank you very. And you can donate to them if you want to encourage this kind of behavior.
Right.
You can give them a little donation to help them do these things. Britt, do you
Thank
have a?
Yeah, I just want to say that Bear Audubon is active in trying to work with the city of San Antonio to modify light ordinances on 2 different levels. We're working on one level as it relates to lights out during migration, and trying to get an ordinance passed with the city council right now to at least get them to endorse the concept of turning lights down, unnecessary lights during migration. Our long-term goal is to move towards what Steve has been talking about, Our long-term goal is to move more towards trying to actually get some ordinances in place. I will have to give props to Hill Country Alliance, Don Davies, who's their Night Skies manager. Last year they did the Universal Development Code. Every 5 years, the city of San Antonio updates their what they call the UDC, the University Development Code, which is the codes that builders have to adhere to when they construct structures, buildings, homes, houses, whatever. And they were very successful in getting some modifications in this on the north side of Bexar County as it relates to the Camp Bullis Land Sentinel project. We need to push that whole concept down so that all the street lights are under 2,700 degrees Kelvin, shielded from above, and that the developers, when they put in lighting in their new development areas, that they adhere to those same kinds of rules, and the list goes on. So we're actively engaged with the city on trying to, when I say we, I mean Bear Audubon of South Central Texas is actively engaged in San Antonio to try to institute those changes.
And it means money for the city because the military says if you don't control this, we're going to move out. And when they move out, they take a lot of jobs, a lot of income with them. So, you know, that's a motivator. But some people have mentioned that they have neighbors who have bright light. Now, in our neighborhood, we live in a small gated community that has very laid back rules, no sidewalks, and we have no street lights at all. And it's come up to a vote. We have new people move in and they used to have street lights and they think that makes you safer. It just gives light to people to break into your house.
Right.
You know, it's not, but it's been voted down every time. People love the darkness. We have to preach the benefits of these things. And I would recommend, just like we have things to tell your neighbors nicely to leave their cats indoors, take a brochure and give them the information and appeal to that. If there's somebody shining light, right, that's called trespassing. I like that term. But we can spread the word on these kind of things. And the other thing I wanted to mention before we stop is that we're going to have some information later on water catchment. And that can be something simple as a water barrel that you use and as extensive as your whole home being on water catchment. And we're going to have, I think we're going to convince Stephen to come back and tell us about that. So all of these things, they're pieces of a puzzle and they all contribute. If they contribute to our welfare, they're contributing to the welfare of the birds and the other wildlife too, because it's more like what, and you ask about cities. And when they had the big, I think it was up in Montreal or one of the Canadian cities, they had big bird strikes and there were all these dead birds laying around and they started the whole lights out thing was started up there. And if you drive down the freeway into San Antonio, we're a pretty dark sky. We're pretty dark sky for a big city. But I love the idea. I'd love to see what you give to the companies, like a good neighbor award for a neighbor that turned off their lights or did something, or a business. That's really good. It's called positive reinforcement. And I think that would be great. So any other comments from the Zoom? Questions? Okay. All right. Anybody else here, a comment or questions? Okay. Well, thank you very much. And
Thank
thanks for
you.
driving all the way from the Devil's Backbone.
Thank you all. And thank you for what you do for our bird community.
Well, spread the word. We have the lights out cards here, and if you need more, we've got lots of them.
Thank you.
And take your sign, and if you want to know where to get those, if you want to make some or something, Allison has the information of where we have them. And if everybody here would like to have one for their yard, we've got them, and we'll print more if we need them. So thank you very much, and please stay a while. It's early, and